Hey everybody, we are at the Wings of Freedom Museum. It may not be your cup of tea, and if it's not, that's okay. But the one thing this has here that no other museum that I've ever found has, it has my old airplane in here, the one I used to fly. The exact one, serial number down to everything, with our marking still on it. So we're coming here, we're at Willow Grove, what used to be Willow Grove Naval Air Station. We're gonna do a quick walkthrough as well. And if you like this kind of thing, great. If you don't, I know it's not a car, but these are a lot of, that's a classic. That's from 1959. That one's from the 1940s, 1960s. That's the muscle car of jets, the F4 Phantom. So there's all kinds of cool stuff here, and it kind of fits in. It's just not cars, they're things that fly. So join us, and we got stuff to give away. So stay tuned, watch the whole thing, and let us know in the comments. Put in the phrase, and we're going to be doing a drawing on September 1st. So thanks, and come with us. So welcome to another episode of Junkyards and Barn Finds with Sean, and I'm Sean. Hey guys, so you guys always hear me talking about that I flew in P3s and stuff. So I'm at actually the Naval, well, it's no longer Naval Air Station, but it used to be Naval Air Station Willow Grove. And we're gonna see some planes here. There's a museum here. Now, when I was flying here back in the 80s, a lot, not these planes, but the planes you're gonna see, they were all outside at the end of the runway. And some of them are really, really unique, like the Sea Dart and everything else. But there's also an airplane here that was the P3 that was from my squadron. So we're gonna go check that out. But in the meantime, if you're ever up here in the Willow Grove, Philadelphia area, this is a really nice museum. It's inexpensive. They're open good hours, around 10:30 every day. And if you're a veteran, this is kind of what's left of the air base. The air base is still here, but it's no longer a base. It's just a bunch of buildings. There's an Air National Guard thing here, but nobody's flying out of here anymore. But I mean, here's one of the helicopters. It's a Bell that you would see. If you know the TV show MASH, this would have been one of the helicopters you saw. So it's a 1950s Air Helo, and there's really nothing to them. I think they had very little horsepower, but they could carry 2 stretchers. This is a Korean Air P-80. Here's an AIM-9 Sidewinder missile. So if you want to know how big a missile is, I'm 6'2", so that's about 6 foot. And then here is a Shrike missile, which anti-radiation. You would have seen these on EA-6Bs, EA-6As would have carried those. I don't know if they still use them with the EF-18s. And they have a lot of stuff here. They've got models. They've got World War I and World War II flight suits and helmets and all kinds of stuff here. And here's an engine. The base was active for about 50 years. So there's a lot of stuff that was given. Here's a lot of models of different aircraft. And you have a lot of like here's flight suits and helmets. So there's a lot of cool stuff here. The people that are volunteers here, for the most part, also a lot of them flew here at Willow Grove. So here's aviation in Willow Grove. It started in 1910. It became an Army airfield, and it went all the way through 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 1990s, and then it closed on March 30th, 2011. And this was the time period I was here. In fact, when I was here, you'll see the A4 out there. This A4 was here when I was here. They were flying those. P3s, Bs were here when I was here. This used to be sitting outside when I was here. The A10s were flying after I left. And the SH2 Sea Sprites from HSL 94, that was here. A friend of mine flew in those squadrons. But everybody from Amelia Earhart was here at the base. This is what the auto gyro, that's an auto gyro. That's what really started the base here. And like we said, P3s were pretty much the center of attention for here. And this looks like a, yeah, SH2 Sea Sprite cockpit. And a submarine helicopter drone. Huh, never seen one of these. When was this? Wow. So nearby to here was also a place called Naval Air Development Center, and that's where astronauts trained, and a lot of other stuff was invented for the military. And so some of that stuff also came here. So we have a Pitcairn mail plane. This is an actual Fokker D8 from 1918. And you can see they're not that big. I mean, people go up and they dogfight in these things, and they were not that big. It's probably about the size of a pickup truck. So they had A37s here when I was here. They also had an O2, and then the A10s were here as well. So, all right, let me find out how we go outside. Where do you head out? Is it the either door? Either door? Okay, I just didn't want to open something and all the alarms go off.
Actually, I'll unlock the
okay.
We're good. And I'll unlock the gate to get you to the P3.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you end up being jet jock or?
No, I ended up basically after VRC 40, I ended up being a station pilot. They had a C2.
Oh, okay.
And I got trained for 131, never really flew it. And,
oh. Were you here when the F-14 crashed?
I lived here, but wasn't.
Okay.
I wasn't a docent when the base was over.
Wow.
You want to hear something that's really
I remember
sad.
the S3 here. Do you remember that ejection seat during the air show? The two kids that got killed?
Yeah, but once again, I was living here, but not volunteering. One thing that's really sad, that mail plane, and we had to have something airborne tomorrow.
Yeah.
That by far, that mail plane, when you come in the door, is the oldest.
Right.
By far, it'd be the easiest. It's still leaking oil. That's a good sign.
Wow.
But that's in the Pitcairn family. The family was flying it up to 10 years ago.
Really?
And when they said we're going to land it here and donate it, the BRAC Commission said you can't land on the base.
Because
so they had to
closed.
disassemble it because the base was closed.
Yeah. Wow.
So enjoy.
So well, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there anything, I know that there's Air National Guard here. I guess they do drone flying or something, somebody said.
They don't do any flying here.
But I mean, the drones aren't here, but
they don't do any flying here.
But
Air National Guard, yeah.
But is like somebody said, there's businesses that bought out the buildings or something. So are there businesses on here?
Not that I know of. The only thing I know of is Air National Guard. And
so it's closed to the.
It's closed.
Because I thought, man, with all this stuff, I always thought with homeless vets.
Yeah.
That we could have a base like this where they open up the old barracks if it was possible.
Well, the plan is for all this to be Main Street portion, Main Street, yeah.
Oh, it is?
Shops and everything. Nothing has happened for 10 years because when the base was here, there was some pollution, the water got polluted, and nobody wants to belly up the bar and pay for it.
Gotcha.
So.
Yeah, I remember OSHA came out and fined
So nothing has
somebody.
happened. Nothing has happened. This is exactly the same as 10, 11 years ago.
Yeah, I remember when they built the new hangar.
Yeah. So. That was the base exchange.
Oh yeah.
And actually now there's just a bunch of rats.
And then there was a place called Ratsen Resort where we did all our training, which was Pacer Industries over there.
Yeah, the pool, I was here when I was here for the air show. Our alumni association had a pool party over at the BOQ, which is
okay. Yeah. Well, it's just a weird little place now.
Yep.
So.
Actually, if you get down here.
See, the strange thing is, like, when you're gone for 25 years,
Yeah.
it looks like totally different than somebody who's lived here while little things happened.
Right, but some things, actually, this has been frozen in time for the last, well, it's probably 12 years ago, 12 or 13 since the base closed. You can see it from the building, so.
The Army used to have all their helos over there at that white building.
Yep, okay. So you can see the radar rotating.
Yeah.
Which is strange because it's a base where nobody flies. Well, the deal is that's an outlying facility for the FAA. So I've let FAA people go and do maintenance on it.
So they just have it, so it's
for
just
Philadelphia
running.
International.
Oh, okay.
But you know, it's a good place to stick something because military base, you know.
Yeah.
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 So, and there's one on the other end of the base down there that's still operational. Yeah. And that's pretty much it for International Guard.
And this was the BEQ or visitor?
This was actually the last building built. It was a Navy Lodge.
Okay, the Navy Lodge. You're right.
So people asked what was inside those white poles there, and I did some digging, and that was actually the playground for the Navy Lodge.
Oh, wow.
So they built it, and actually its claim to fame is President Bush came into that building to sign the paperwork to close the base.
Wow.
So that's, I think, about the only thing that building was ever used for.
And that building probably, not maybe now, but back then, they could have probably just gated it off and used it as a...
Yeah, I think they've stripped all the plumbing out of it and stuff. Now it's just a shell.
Yeah. What's this, F-84?
Yeah.
So do you guys still have a facility on base where you guys work on aircraft or anything?
Yeah, unfortunately, until it's settled with the BRAC, and 12 years have gone by and nothing's happened.
Right.
We're supposed to get an area here and maybe even a hangar to keep our planes in and repair them and stuff. Right now, there's a Quonset hut down at that corner of the base that the planes don't even fit in. You just kind of stick.
It's the same place that they had I think AIMD back in the day.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be, but
is it all the way down on the left of past the taxiway? Yeah.
Past the taxiway, across from the diner, Dancer's Diner.
That was AIMD back in the day.
And that's what our guys have. They have a generator, they have a porta potty, and yeah.
Yeah, and you got an empty hangar sitting here.
Yeah.
That'll hold everything.
It's in limbo because BRAC doesn't want to do anything until it's signed, sealed, delivered. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Think it ever will be?
Who knows?
Yeah.
12 years and 0, so somebody's got to blink and pay for stuff.
Yeah. Crazy. Well, look at this, guys. It's an F-84, but so here, this is a P3. This is a plane that I'm pretty sure I flew in. We're gonna get the BO number, so. And it's got my tail, it's got what we call the tail feathers. That was my squadron up there. And I spent a lot of time in this thing. And this is a P3 Bravo, so this is what I flew in before I went to the Charlies. Charlies had wing mounts. They would have 3 wing mounts there, 2 hard points there, but that would be the main entry door. Right in here is a kitchen area. So this is P3 Bravo number 154574 and Lima uniform VP64. So this is what's called a mad boom here, and it's magnetic anomaly detection. And so what happens here is again, a little sciencey here, is the whole earth has different magnetic fields in it, and we could fly, and this would detect the magnetic field disturbance underwater. So if a submarine was underwater several hundred feet, you theoretically would see a disturbance in the magnetic lines when we're hunting subs. So this is where what's called a sonobuoy shoots. So this is where the sonobuoy would pop out, and sonobuoys are basically recording microphones that would go in underwater, and we could hear submarines. Difference between this one and a Charlie, I mean, there's a lot of differences, but Charlie has a whole panel here that's got all these automatic shoots, and a Bravo and an Alpha, a P3A and a B, we would have an ordnanceman on board, aircrew ordnanceman, and he would just drop them out and set them himself. And then it's got 4 engines. These are the same engines that are on a C-130. So these are the same as a C-130 engine. On a C-130, they're inverted. If you're in P3s, C-130s have them upside down. If you're in C-130s, P3s have them upside down. And then right here is your bomb bay right here. Now, I'm walking here. This is where the propeller is. Obviously, these aren't going anywhere. It's not fueled. It hasn't moved in 10 years, so I'm not too concerned with standing here. But this right here is a bomb bay door. So do not enter bomb bay. And these right here, you can see how long this bomb bay is in here. And this would open this side, the other one opens the other side. They're clamshell. And then this air intakes, different instrument things they got. Now here, this door here, if you can look and see this door opens up, and then a little R2D2 looking upside down looking thing pops down, and that would be the infrared detection system that pops down there. And part of my job as a sensor 3 would be to use that to look around, and I can look at stuff through infrared detecting. Of course, you got your nose cone, and then here's the APU, auxiliary power unit exhaust. So just think of it like a generator for the plane. So when you first come out, you turn on the APU, and that powers up the aircraft. And then you have the variable geometry wing propellers. So these propellers are actually jet engines, so they're turboprops. So they're basically an engine, and then the prop, wow, these propellers are really in bad shape, but the props itself would turn, so you could feather them by turning them 90 degrees so that they're the edges to the wind, and they would have so we would normally turn off number 1 engine and number 4 engine, and by turning off the number 1 and number 4 engine, then we would save fuel, because we could fly, I mean, this plane will fly up to 18 hours without being refueled. Never want to do that, but you would turn off the number 1 and number 4 engine, and by turning that off, we just fly on the 2 main engines. And how you increase speed is you just increase the angle of the propeller, and that would of the prop, and then that would, in fact, it looks like this prop, is that angle, it looks like this propeller right here, the angle is off. Am I right? It looks a little off, maybe not. It does it to me, but anyway, I'm not a mechanic. And then my seating area in this, that's an observer's window. So you're gonna have 2 pilots, you're gonna have a flight engineer. This, I believe, in the Charlie version, the C version, we all sit in the tube next to each other. In this one, this will be a radio operator, would sit here. And I believe does the navigator sit by himself, or the tactical coordinator? But anyway, this is called the tube, and I would sit here in this one now, and Charlie, you're sitting on the other side, but I would sit right about in there with my electronics, and then the sensor 2 and sensor 1 would sit right there. And that overhead hatch there, we have to climb out when we check the oil and stuff on the wings when it's parked. We don't open it up in flight. But so that's the plane that I used to fly in, and they really just retired these maybe like 2 years ago. The P8 Poseidon, which is a 737 variant, flies now. These were based on the Electra. So the Lockheed Electra, which was originally a airliner from the 1950s, they upgraded the engines, they shortened the plane, they made it a little wider, shortened it, made it a little fatter, strengthened it, and these things were known to get you home no matter what. They're great airplanes, and it feels weird at 55 talking about them like they were B-17s in World War II, but these pretty much kept everybody safe in the US. There was 144 of these stationed in Jacksonville. They were stationed here all over the country, Glenview Naval Air Station in Illinois, Barbers Point, Hawaii, up in New England, and we used to fly them all the time. And there's a crew of 11, a tactical crew of 11, but most of the time you didn't fly with 11. A lot of times you only flew with eight people, and if you were just going up doing what's called airways trainers, where pilots, everybody has to get their hours, then you might only have 4 people in this plane. But very cool. Sad to see it sitting here, but I'd be worse sad to see them sitting over in a junkyard like I did in the first video when I went out to Davis Mountain, and they're all out there. So, and they actually started flying these in the 1950s. So they lasted for the 1950s to only a couple years ago to about 2015. So they flew them for almost 50 years. Great plane, great history. And yeah. So then in here are some other planes that flew during that time period. I'm gonna go ahead and close this and lock it. And here. Put this here and lock. There we go. So we've got a couple. Now this one here is a C1, and this plane particularly was known as a COD, carrier onboard delivery aircraft. And this used to sit down at the end. If you drove down this road back in the day, it went all the way down what's called a gate guard position, and a gate guard plane. So this on the inside, this could go land on aircraft carriers. This one was retired and sat here like as a display plane, but on the inside, if you went inside, it basically had cargo. You could see some seats in there. If we look inside, you could see some seats, and they're facing backward because that's a safer way to fly. So they would bring people, parts, aircraft parts, whatever, maintenance stuff, out to the ships, to the aircraft carriers. Or if you're like somebody who's getting transferred to aircraft carrier, you'll ride in this, and this would land and take off with a catapult. There's its hook. This was an A4 Skyhawk, and the Diamondbacks were stationed here when I was a kid, all the way until after I left. This is the squadron, Mag 49, 111th Fighter Wing. This was a Marine Corps, the Marine Reserve flew these. It's got some Zoomy rockets on there. It's got a Mark 82 bomb, and these were scooters. They flew from about 1959. They were on active duty, both Marines and Navy. If you ever watched the first Top Gun, you might have seen them in Top Gun, because the A4Ms with different engines were used in Top Gun to fight as the aggressor squadron. These were carrier based. This one wasn't. This was Marines, and the Marines used to have a whole squadron of them here. So VMA 131, and I guess Colonel Lake was the last pilot. So they were here from 71 to 94, and this was delivered in 1971. And this is another aircraft that was here. These were here back in the 70s, or I'm sorry, in the 50s. And these were frontline Navy Marine AF-1s. These were first generation jets, kind of like the Sabre. However, they weren't a Sabre. The Navy used these instead, similar to a Sabre, but these were carrier based. And then here, Ted Williams, the famous ball player, he flew one of these. If you ever saw the movie Bridges of Toko-Ri, you would know what this is. This is an 9F-2. This is the Panther. It flew from 1949 to 62. They were based here as well. Ted Williams was not based here. But this was operated out of Naval Air Development Center, Johnsville, and it was actually in a private collection by a guy named Alan Walk, who owned it and flew it for a while. It could do almost 600 miles an hour. Here's its guns in the front. It was a fighter back in the Korean War days. So there's some cool stuff here outside as well. And the nice thing is you can walk right up to it like we're doing. And then of course you have an F-18. And this is the first model. This is not a super F-18 like they're flying now. Super F-18s are a lot bigger. And I believe this is an A model. I'm not sure, but I think it's an A model. So the E models are the bigger ones. They have much bigger wings, bigger fuel tanks, different engine intakes. But still, this one needs a repaint. VFA 203. 203? I can't tell. Yeah, it looks like VFA 203. This is where you would clip on the Sidewinder missiles we saw inside. Would be on the edge here, and then you have hard points under the wings. You have the twin tails. You have an SH2 Sea Sprite. My friend who served with me later in P3s, I went to high school with, John Binford. John was in a this squadron here, HSL 94. They used to be in the hangar down there. That was my hangar, the one with all the metal pieces. That was a P3 hangar. The helos were down that side of the base. And this, I believe, was the Lamps 1. Lamps, I forget what Lamps stood for, but it did pretty much the same thing as a P3, but off of a helicopter. So it would be off of destroyers or whatever. And an AW, which I was, which flew in those, would also sit here. Here's their sonobuoys that they could shoot out. And there's the AW stuff right there. So you can see all the controllers. Here's a seat. There's your display and a lot of the keyboards and stuff. These were the wings. So this right there was the fuel tanks, not wings. Had twin engines and a really good little helo. A lot of times it would be they'd have one or two of these on like a frigate or a small ship or a cruiser or something would carry a couple of these helicopters. And then you have the A-10, infamous A-10. This flew here with the Air National Guard back in the 80s and 90s. And here's its cannon. Everybody talks about the 30mm cannon. So there's the cannon sticking out. And of course you can see all the hard points here. Bombs, rockets, bombs, fuel tank, bomb, another kind of weapon, another bomb, another fuel tank, and another bomb, more missiles, another bomb. And as you can see, if we stand in front here, the gun on this is so big that they had to offset the landing gear. So by offsetting the landing gear, because the gun barrel had to be here, because if it was off center, the plane would have veered to whatever the kickback from the weapon would have been. So they had to put the weapon dead center and the landing gear to the left. And of course it's got twin engines, and it's got a titanium tub around where the pilot sits, so if they got shot, it would protect them. Those engines, one could come off and it could still fly with just one engine connected. There's a picture of one that came and had half its wing missing, and it's got the twin rudders in the back, the big tall rudders, and it could fly with just one rudder as well. So like I said, this is a pretty cool little place. They have a picnic area here, so you can come over, you know, with a group or with your family, or just by yourself and eat lunch here. A lot of people, when all these planes were parked down at the end of the runway, you couldn't go over and walk in, but people would sit there and just watch planes land and take off, and you could sit and eat lunch there. So here's a trainer, T-34. I believe it's T-34, yep, T-34B. And this was a Navy trainer. This is what you learned to do basic flight in. So flight school, this was the very first thing you flew. Before this, they had T-28s, but this was what you learned to fly your very first time. See if you could fly, see how good you were, and then they would pick out whether you were going helos or multi-engine or jets or whatever. All right, over here, this plane is very, very rare. There was 5 of them made, and this was called the Sea Dart. As you can see, it's got engines up top, YF2Y-1, and it looks like a standard fighter from back in the 1960s, except for these big ski looking things. And the funny thing is, so these ski things, this is actually a flying boat. It is a fighter plane that could land on water. And there's not a bunch of them around. It only has 1 crew. This was an experimental in 1955. It could actually do 825 miles an hour. And it's pretty cool because as it got faster on water, the skis would come out and it would take off. Except the problem was that it was really underpowered, and so when it got up on the skis, it would vibrate really bad and was difficult to control. There was 5 of them built, 4 of them still survive, and this one actually never flew. From what it says, this one never flew, and it's on loan from Naval Aviation Museum. But this one here has been here since I've been a kid. So it's been at Willow Grove since at least the early 70s when I was a kid here. Favorite fighter of all time, everybody's favorite fighter of all time, unless you're an F-14 guy. But the F-4, more F-4s, been in more services in more countries. F-4 Phantom, the Rhino, it's called a Rhino. Ugly, slanted nose, weird wings. Some dehydrals go down, wingtips go up, but had so much power, it's a brick that could fly. This thing, if the engines don't work, has pretty much no chance of flying, but it's got so much power in it that it could fly over twice the speed of sound, and was the primary aircraft basically through Vietnam. It went into service in '58, and through Vietnam, it's the only fighter that was used as a frontline fighter bomber for the Marines, the Air Force, and Navy all at the same time. And like I said, almost every country in the world, there's some countries that still fly them as their first line fighters. But crazy, this is an F-14A. I think this is the one from Naval Air Development Center. I think I have a picture of this, a black and white picture of this back in the 80s sitting on the runway. And then we have the little Hup-2 twin engine helicopter. This was in the first generation of helos. Obviously it's not that big, it's got twin rotors, but it's pretty tiny. It's only got 1 pilot, so it's a pretty skinny little bird. So you got 1 pilot, somebody sits over here, co-pilot, and then it was basically a search and rescue aircraft, as well as you know, it could move stuff around. So this was built by the Piasky Helicopter Company, and it was for search and rescue, plane guards when they're launching aircraft off of the aircraft carriers. And maximum weight on this is about 5,700 pounds. It has a crew of 2 and top speed of only 100 miles an hour. But the cool thing with this, and they used them from 48 to 51, is see this door that's open under here. So once they took off, there's a door, like this door is open, they put a piece of plexiglass there so you can look up. This would be where the hoist was, so if an airplane crashed, if a pilot ejected, if they had to rescue somebody, then you see the hoist in there. Look up here again. So you see the hoist, they would open this door, lower the hoist, and pull the person up. And then they have about as much room as a minivan in the back here. Back there's about as much room as a minivan, and then here's the door to get in and out. But as you can see, not a whole lot of room in here. And they also could go and replenish stuff from one ship to another. We have the classic Huey medevac helicopter from, everybody says it's the fame of it, or the infamous of it, was Vietnam. And this is a two-bladed and looks like single engine. Let's see, dual engine. Nope, looks like dual maybe. No, single engine. So I believe this is an A, because it only has one engine. Army Reserve, just one blade. Everybody knows the sound of a Huey. It's Huey. And this was a medevac version. So if you look inside, they don't have a lot of seating in here. There's seats back there, seats here, jump seat there, two pilots, but you can put a lot of stretchers in here. If you look at the amount of room in this Huey versus the amount of room in that, and they were both flying around the same time, but these Hueys, which is why they were like the Jeeps and the pickup trucks of the Vietnam War. Here's a stretcher. So you got a stretcher laying here. You can put a stretcher down on the floor below it. And I believe, and I don't know, and I'm sure Army guys will tell me if I'm correct, but I think you could fit, I want to say you had the two crew members and the crew chief, and I think you could fit 10, so 10 people in that, or 14. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure people watching who have flown in those, because they flew from the 50s all the way up till just a couple years ago, and I think they're probably still flying some in the National Guard and all now, but that was before the Black Hawk. And then this was another large helicopter. This was a heavy lift helicopter. The Navy, Marines used, a lot of Marines used it. Troop carrier. And you'll see a lot of these. They use these to move trees and heavy weights, and you'll see a lot of these on YouTube carrying like logs and trees and all big stuff when they're lifting them off roofs and everything. Whoa. So on this one, you've got your door and the inside here, and if you look inside, you can see it's pretty cavernous in there. And we look in here, so you would climb up. The pilots actually sit up there, and then the whatever you're carrying goes in here, and this big door slides open, so you can carry people, cargo, whatever. These clam doors open up. Hold on, let me double check. Is that the engine, or is that just a space? Nope, it's just space. So not sure, I don't know much about one of these, but I've seen a lot of them. Anyway, and then here was welcome to Naval, welcome aboard. This used to be up front at the main gate, which now doesn't have anything there. So there's the main gate. And so that was a Navy lodge that was built and then closed about 3 years later. Why that couldn't be used to house homeless veterans, I don't know. And then you had houses like this, which were commanding officer homes. There's one here. These are all full homes. But, you know, there's a lot of houses on base. There's a lot of barracks on base. There's a lot of buildings here that could really if you had homeless vets, for the most part, homeless vets or just veterans who maybe are on a fixed income, there's no reason none of these buildings could be used except our politicians. They would just rather throw money out than you've got on this base. There's an Air Force barracks, Air National Guard barracks, Army barracks, Navy barracks, enlisted barracks, officer barracks. There's kitchens. They have a automotive garages here. They could have, you know, people working on their cars. There's so much stuff that this base could actually do. And yet, you know, politicians, they just do their thing. And this could be so good for the community. But, you know, anyway, that's my my 2 cents. So I hope you liked taking a tour of the facility here, and I'm glad I could share it with you. Let me go inside here. And this is the Wings of Freedom Aviation Museum. And you know, guys, like I said, there's a lot of things, a lot of good could come from this. So if you're a politician that's watching this, if you're somebody high up in the world of the military, maybe you could do something to get this working. So, but this is the Wings of Freedom Delaware Valley Historical Aircraft Association, and this is where we're at down in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania. I know this isn't car stuff, but basically it is a junkyard. All right, everybody, as we stand here in front of this Cyclone radial engine, let's see, put in Screaming Chickens, because that used to be the nickname what everybody called our squadron, the Screaming Chicken. So put in Screaming Chicken in the comment section, and you can win this Remove Before Flight, US Navy Remove Before Flight, see, Navy flight keychain, and this really cool, authentic, absolutely, completely 100% authentic replica Airman's flying hat. So you get both of these, whoever puts it in, and we're gonna run this one from the whole month of August. So at the end of August, September 1st, every comment that says Screaming Chicken, we'll put those in and we'll pull them out and we'll send these to you, only into the United States. Sorry guys, it's super expensive to send stuff outside the US, so it's only inside the US mail. So but you'll get both of these by putting Screaming Chicken in the comments. Hey guys, one more thing. If you are in the tri-state area and you not only want to visit, but maybe you want to volunteer, they always are looking for volunteers. And call Charlie, and I'll put his contact information below. So if you want to call Charlie Reinhardt, he is in charge of volunteers presently, and they would be happy. You can call 215-990-2366 or email tours at wofmusem.org. So you can contact them either way. Leaving a message after hours, 672-2277. You can go to wingsoffreedommuseum.org. So you can reach out, and they're always looking for volunteers. So please reach out especially if you're a veteran, and if you have stuff from the base that you say you were stationed here, and you're cleaning out your closet and you find, like, I don't know, you know, a flight helmet, a flight jacket, maybe you took a P3 home one piece at a time and it's in your garage and you just need room for a new car, something like that, then reach out to these guys so that they can put it on display and share it with the world. So, and I said, if you're a politician, if you can find, I don't know, $2 to $10 million sitting around in the budget, maybe you could send it to them here now too, so they can get stuff up and coming. So
$28 million right there.
yeah, we need 28 million. So if anybody wants to start a GoFundMe page, maybe we can get that going. And we'd like to put this Wings of Freedom here, museum. It would be really cool. All right, thanks guys, and talk to you later. Yeah, this commanding officer's house there. This was the bachelor officer quarters right here. All right, here's the front gate. That used to be the hospital right there. I got my flight physicals right there. The old military base. And right next to that tree there was where they used to have, right next to the tree over there was where they used to have the plane with the folded wings, the C-1 Cod. And that's the front gate right there. So there's a little trip along memory lane. April, should they subscribe to this channel even if they don't like cars today for this one?
Probably just for this one.
Where it says merchandise store right here, merchandise store link, you will see it says https:/junkyards-barn-finds, and you click on that and it's going to take you here.